don't usually gavel us in at this point, but I'm going a little bit off of agenda tonight. Before we begin the meeting officially, I would like to have Dorothy Stick please come up here forward to be sworn in as the next Monroe County Legislator representing the 18th District. Ready? I do solemnly swear that I, Dorothy Stick,
I do solemnly swear, Dorothy Stick,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties
the duties
of Monroe County Legislator
of Monroe County Legislator
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Dorothy, before you go, this is a little part that I kind of like to do. This is really the official that you're now a county legislator. This is the official pin of Monroe County. Wear it proudly. All right? And that's from me to you. And this second one that I'm giving you is because some of us wear more than one suit or outfit every now and then. And this is the John Lightfoot law. Legislator Lightfoot in the back has invoked this on me, and we give you two. So if you just say something, go right ahead.
This is a very proud moment for me and for my family. I want to thank everyone for their support, and I look forward to serving my community to the best of my ability. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The February 11th, 2014 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
President Adair?
Here.
Mr. Ansello? Here. Ms. Andrews? Here. Mr. Baroth? Here. Ms. Boyce? Here. Dr. Carbone? Here. Mr. Colby? Here. Mr. Daniele? Here. Mr. Delahanty? Here. Mrs. Draw? Mr. Gamble is excused. Mr. Gamina is excused. Mr. Haney is excused. Mr. Howland? Here. Ms. Cayley? Here. Mr. John Lightfoot? Here. Mr. Willie Lightfoot? Here. Mr. Marionetti? Here. Mr. Michike? Mr. Morelli? Here. Dr. Quattro? Here. Ms. Rivera? Here. Mr. Rocco? Here. Mrs. Stick? Here. Ms. Taylor? Here. Mr. Tucciarello? Here. Mrs. Valerio is excused. Mr. Wilcox? Mr. Yolovich.
Please stay seated at this time. I'd like to introduce Rabbi Rachel Smokler of Rochester's Temple of Beth David, who has been invited here tonight by Legislator Joe Morelli, Jr.
Golda Meir, the first female prime minister of the state of Israel, was known to have said to her co-politicians, "Don't be so humble, you're not that great." So we are reminded by that statement that humility takes great practice and great leadership, and it takes a long time for all of us to gain that. And there is a Hasidic teaching from the 18th century that says, "Keep two truths in your pocket at all times and take them out according to the need of the moment." So in your right pocket, it will say, "For the sake of me was the world created." And in your other pocket will say, "I am made of dust and ashes, to remind us that at times we feel the world was created for our sake alone, and as leaders, at other times, we understand humility and that we will all become dust and ashes, all of us together. And I have laminated these things that look like little fortune cookie inserts so that you can keep them in your pockets. And when that moment arises during your leadership, you can take them out according to your need. I'm going to read from our prayer book. We read this every Saturday, our Sabbath, and it's a prayer for leadership for the country. We pray for all who hold positions of leadership and responsibility in our nation. Let your blessing rest upon them and make them responsible and responsive to your will, so that our nation may be to the world an example of justice and compassion. Deepen our love for our country and our desire to serve it. Strengthen our power of self-sacrifice for our nation's welfare. Teach us to uphold its good name by our own right conduct. Cause us to see clearly that the well-being of our nation is in the hands of all of its citizens. Imbue us with the zeal for cause of liberty to our own land, for all lands, and help us always to keep our homes safe from affliction, strife, and war. And let us all say, Amen. Amen.
At this time, I'd like legislators to stay in their seats, and I would like to call today for a moment of silence for a great person in the community that we lost today, Tom Ferraro, who was the Food Link founder, and a great friend to many people in this county, and a great friend to many people here in the Ledge chambers. So I ask you all to take a moment of silence at this time. Thank you. Thank you. Legislator Carrie Andrews will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Legislator Andrews. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have received a copy of the Journal of Day 1, January 14, 2014. Without exception, the journal stands approved as submitted. There is a hearing loop in place tonight to assist those who are hearing impaired. Anyone requiring assistance should inquire in our clerk's office.
If you have a cellular phone, pager, or other electronic devices in your possession, I would request that you make it inaudible for the duration of the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation.
Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycle are in your folders. At this time, it is my honor to introduce Mark Quinn from Monroe County Parks Department, who is going to tell us about the plants of the month. Mark?
Thank you. Good evening. Due to the cold weather outside, we've decided to bring something tropical this month. Our plant of the month this month is bromeliads, which is actually a group of plants. I have one in my hand here. They make terrific houseplants. They're particularly tolerant of a lot of conditions. They'll deal with temperatures. If you leave in the daytime and you turn your house down to 50, they'll live just fine. So anything between about 50 and as warm as your house could ever be, they'll survive in. One like the one I've got in my hand probably doesn't take an awful lot of light, so just any window will do. They're very, very tolerant as houseplants. If you look at some of the ones up front after the meeting, you'll see that they actually form a vase-like shape, and they'll cup water. Now, these are all tropical plants, or tropical or subtropical, native to Americas, and a lot of the plants actually collect water, and a lot of species of animals and plants actually live in those cups. So salamanders and frogs use them as breeding in the in their natural environment. Many of the plants are actually epiphytic, meaning they grow up in trees. Like this is one people might recognize. Spanish moss actually lives up in the trees, and a lot of the bromeliads we have do live in trees, although there are terrestrial ones that you'll recognize as well. If you look in the front, you'll see a pineapple plant, which is probably one of the most recognizable bromeliads we have. Again, these are native to this continent, or probably South America in this case. Columbus actually brought these back in 1492 to Europe. And again, they were introduced to Europe and most notably Hawaii, where they're mostly produced now. The neat thing about a pineapple is actually, if you have one, you can cut the top off and you can grow a new plant. That top is actually a new plant of a pineapple. It's particularly easy to do. It's a little hard to get them actually to bloom and turn into a pineapple like this one, but it is doable. And it's kind of an interesting thing for a child to do or whatever, for, you know, to show how to grow plants. You can get instructions online real easy, and it's not particularly difficult to do. A lot of what you see in these as houseplants, we're actually looking at the bracts. We're not seeing as a flower. It's actually a modified leaf. They do flower, but a lot of the flowers are very small. But the nice thing about it is this will sit this way for months on end and still look like it's flowering, even though those are actually just leaves that you're seeing. Same with the orange and the red ones up front here. Anyway, really neat house plant, and if you want to see a great collection, Lamberton Conservatory's got a wonderful collection of them on the ground and in the trees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I have one question for you before you leave the podium.
Sure.
How many years have we been doing this now?
You know, I don't know. 3 or 4 maybe.
I think it's closer to 4 than it is to 3. I never once believed that there would actually be a pineapple in these chambers.
Yeah, we try to do stuff
February.
different.
It's a little different, but
Think-
it's a real pineapple. So thank you.
Think warm.
I was so proud of the back row tonight. They were the first ones in their team, and now I get to do that. All right. This evening there are several proclamations scheduled. The first one will be read by our clerk. Thank you.
Originally formed by historian Carter G. Woodson in 1926 to promote the teaching of the history of African Americans in public schools, Black History Month has grown and evolved into a celebrated time of reflection for all Americans. Since 1976, America has recognized the month of February as Black History Month to honor the accomplishments of African Americans throughout the history of the United States. This year, as Black History Month celebrates the theme of civil rights in America, we recognize the significant role played by residents of Monroe County to promote civil rights. Our area is known throughout the nation as a major stop on the Underground Railroad, a key piece in the anti-slavery movement. Rochester is also home to 2 of the most notable pioneers in the fight for civil rights, Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass, a former slave himself, was our region's preeminent human rights leader in the abolition movement. He was also the first African American to hold a high rank in the United States government. From civil rights activist Raymond Graves, who championed social justice in schools, to Andrew Langston, who became the first Black radio station owner and FCC license holder in the country, to the city of Rochester's first African American mayor, William A. Johnson, Black History Month is a time to reflect on the many innovators, barrier breakers, and change makers who have contributed to the betterment of our entire community. Fortunately, that legacy of civil rights leadership lives on here and now, most notably with the recent election of the city's first African American woman as mayor, the Honorable Lovely A. Warren. Therefore, we, Maggie Brooks, Monroe County Executive, and the Monroe County Legislature do hereby proclaim the month of February to be Black History Month in Monroe County and urge all citizens to learn, educate, and celebrate the rich and proud history of African Americans throughout our community and nation. We have hereunto set our hands this 11th day of February in the year 2014. Would Karen Leidig please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Adair and Legislator Mike Rocco. Whereas, following the tragic loss of Matthew Fitton's life, his mother, Karen Leidig, honored him by continuing his legacy. By age 20, Matt, a graduate from Brockport High School, was the type of young man and athlete who would have given the coat off his back for anyone in need, inspiring the Matt's Coats for Kids project. And whereas every year during the fall and winter, coats are collected all over Monroe County. After this collection drive, children in need are welcomed to attend and to receive a coat without any questions asked. Matt's Coats for Kids is an organization with the mission to keep with us the essence of love and friendship which was and always will be Matthew J. Fitton by helping children in need, a statement that has rung true with the good it does in the community. And whereas over the last 7 years, community members have donated coats through Matt's Coats for Kids during the cold winter months. Through Karen's hard work and dedication to her community and to her son's memory, the project has provided over 5,600 coats to children in need. And whereas Karen continues to honor Matt's legacy each year by providing coats to area children, Karen's selflessness and strong community values help to make Matt's Coats for Kids bigger and more effective every year. Karen Leidig is a model citizen and community leader to her neighbors. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Mike Rocco, Legislator District 2, on behalf of the citizens of Monroe County, do hereby recognize and congratulate Karen Leidig on her efforts and success on creating Matt's Coats for Kids and benefiting children in need every winter. Congratulations.
They were taking bets I was going to cry, which I probably will. Losing a child is definitely the worst thing ever, and I know that unfortunately from fact. When we lost Matthew 10 years ago in a car accident, it took me a long time to even want to go on, because when you lose one of your children, part of your heart goes to heaven. The idea of the coat drive came to me because the last Christmas gift we gave Matthew was a coat. And he loved that coat. In fact, he asked me for it before Christmas. He knew I'd gotten it for him, and he said, "Mom, I know it's my Christmas gift, but it's cold. Can I have it?" And somehow after we lost him, it just came to me, why not help the children of our area? And have something that's in your closet that you're not using anymore, and give it to us, and we'll give it to children in need. I can't tell you how this coat drive has enriched my life, how it has enriched the lives of all the people it's helped, the stories people have shared with me, just everything that I've seen. We started it in 2004, and I'm so proud of it, but I am so proud that it carries the essence of who Matthew was. An absolutely wonderful person, a wonderful friend, brother, grandson, and most of all, my oldest son. And I know he's with me right now. I want to thank Legislator Rocco. Thank you so much for honoring and for helping us get the word out about this. I did some work this afternoon and set the dates for the coat drive for next year, and I have information on that if anyone would like. And I also have a copy of the story of Matt's Coats for Kids. But I couldn't do this alone. There are so many people that have helped, and that's why I brought this. I wanted to show you the thank you board just from this year. These are all the people that helped, the organizations that helped us just this year. If I wanted to make a list of everybody I needed to thank since I started this, I would be here all night. People that gave their time, donations, the merchants who donated food. And there you have the cover of this year's box with pictures of Matt. I thank you for this proclamation, and I thank you for the support that you've given me and the Coat Drive, myself and the Coat Drive over the past 10 years. And we're going to continue to do this every year and keep kids warm, because Matt made everybody feel good, and he still is. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Would Randy and Maggie Robb please come forward? Also President Jeffrey R. Adair and Legislator Robert Colby. Whereas Robb Farms in Ogden has been family owned and operated since 1912, providing goods for Ogden and its neighboring communities. It was established by George Robb Sr., originally planted with 5 crops and beef cattle. Today, Robb Farms is owned by Randall and Marjorie Robb and has expanded to over 500 acres of various field crops, livestock, and fruit. And whereas the family is consistently increasing the value of their business by adding new crops, making strides to become nationally GAP certified, and staying attentive to their consumers' needs while keeping its doors open during season for the community to visit and explore. And whereas on January 9th in Syracuse, Robb Farms was honored with a Century Farm Award by the New York State Agricultural Society. This award was presented on the basis that the farm has stayed within the same family for over 100 years and was presented to only 2 New York State farms this year. And whereas Robb Farms has become a local agricultural staple and is a vital link between the people of Monroe County and its abounding natural resources. Robb Farms demonstrates the dedication and good business practices that makes our community thrive. We are proud to be the home to such a long-standing and treasured family business. Now, therefore, we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Robert J. Colby, Legislator, District 20, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate Robb Farms on being awarded the Century Farm Award for keeping this family farm flourishing for over 100 years. Congratulations.
Would Matthew Bartlow please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Adair and Legislator Cynthia Cayley. Whereas Matthew Bartlow, a member of Troop 231, has been working to attain the highest rank in scouting, that of Eagle Scout, and has learned to live by and respect the Scout's oath and law. And whereas, in keeping with the Scout oath, Matthew does his best and does his duty. He obeys the Scout law, and he helps other people at all times. Matthew keeps himself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And whereas, applying the values he has learned as a Scout for his Eagle Scout project, Matthew designed a traveling memorial, a remembrance used at indigent burials performed at Oka Cemetery with the help of his fellow troop members and donations of materials from Black's Hardware, Matthew and Fields Lumber, and Home Depot. The memorial was built to remember those that died without family and resources. And whereas Matthew Bartlow is a true example to other young citizens and has brought recognition and honor to his Scout troop, family, and community, and most importantly to those being honored at burial services. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Cynthia W. Cayley, Legislator District 28, on behalf of the Monroe County Legislature, do hereby congratulate Matthew Bartlow. congratulations, for his hard work and dedication. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. I'd just like to thank my family and my scout troop in the back. I couldn't have done this without them. They gave me a lot of support in making this. And I'd like to thank Sister Beth if she's still here. Sister Beth, could you stand up? A little over a year ago, Sister Beth approached me after a mass at my church and asked me if I'd be willing to create a traveling memorial for a group that she had started the previous year. And we talked, and I learned about this group, which has done burials and attended funerals and burial services for those that wouldn't have anyone else there. And I think they've made a really big impact, and it's very important that they're there to remember these people. And I'm glad that I had the chance to help them in any way. And I hope that you all got a chance to see the memorial that I built and that it will gain support for their group. Thank you.
Would Sharon Coates please come forward? Also, President Jeffrey R. Adair and Legislator Cynthia Cayley. Whereas Project Scion seeks to transform several vacant city lots into green spaces, using the power of nature and art to rejuvenate neighborhoods. The project prides itself on bringing members together from neighboring communities to join in an effort that has widespread benefits for change and development. And whereas in 2012, Project Scion's takeover of the lot at the corner of J and Child Streets successfully converted the space into a lavish area. The location named The Orchard has supported several community-minded activities such as the hosting of a fresh produce stand every Thursday, and whereas 2013 gave way to yet another outstanding operation as Project Scion revitalized a lot at the corner of Dewey and Ravine Avenues, the project was fittingly named The Gateway, as it serves as a means to expose the community to beautiful gardens, art, and community mindfulness, and whereas Sharon Coates, Pietro Ferguelli, and Bruce Zaretsky, creators of Project Scion, deserve vast recognition for their success in improving several neighborhoods and the lives of those within. Their efforts have led to both the creation of green spaces in the city of Rochester, as well as the relationships that embrace the integration of community members from surrounding neighborhoods. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Jeffrey R. Adair, President, and Cynthia W. Cayley, Legislator Director, 28, on behalf of the Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize Project Scion for its ability to use the power of gardening, art, and community involvement to improve several city neighborhoods as well as the lives of members within. Congratulations.
I was told not to ad lib, but I'm going to ad lib one thing. Being landscape designers, we love that you have a plant of the month. I love that. Great. That's great. I love it. Okay. On behalf of Sharon, Pietro, all of the suppliers who helped us with materials, all of the volunteers, we really want to thank you for recognizing our volunteer efforts to transform inner city lots into green spaces. From 1999 to 2008, 50,000 vacant lots in the city of Philadelphia were entered into a database. And over that time, 4,300 of those lots were greened by the Philadelphia Horticultural Society. In 2011, a study found that the sites with green lots had substantially lower crime rates, including a 7 to 8% decrease in gun violence. A 1999 study in Chicago at the Ida Wells Housing Project, which at the time was the largest housing project in the world, compared crime rates at identical buildings with one exception. Half of the buildings had vegetation and half of the buildings did not have vegetation. And that study showed that there were 52% fewer crimes in the buildings with vegetation, 48% fewer property crimes, 56% fewer violent crimes. Studies in Baltimore, Portland, Oregon, Austin, Providence, and even here have shown similar results. And there was a study right here done some years ago that showed that street trees alone added 18% to the value of a home when it was sold. Rochester has thousands of vacant lots. It's increasing every day. From what information that I could find, it costs about $20,000 or so to remove a vacant house on a lot. If we added $500 to that cost, we could plant a single tree on the lot, which would make a significant difference. But better yet, maybe what we can do is get the tree and let the residents plant it so it becomes their tree. Or even better yet, can we get the neighbors to build a gathering space, a park, a safe place for their kids to play, like we're trying to do at Project Scion? And the answer is yes, we can, because we've proved that we can do it. That's what Project Scion's all about. But it's not all we are. We're not just landscapers from the suburbs. We're Rochesterians. We forego the artificial lines. We're all of the same community. We care about our inner city very much. We've worked firsthand with the poorest residents of the city, building parks with them, sharing barbecues with them, playing with their children. And guess what? These people are hardworking, loving, caring people just like we are. They care about their neighborhoods, their children, and their lives. We've worked alongside children as young as 3, grandparents as old as 60, drug dealers who, by the way, at this last project, cook lunch for us every day, disabled people, the police, firefighters, everybody. Project Scion has shown these communities that there are people who care about them, their neighborhoods and their lives. Project Scion has brought together people from all walks of life, poor city residents, wealthy suburban residents, police, firefighters, artists, politicians, everyone. We've built lush green gardens on brown vacant lots. At first, these residents looked at us, 3 people from the suburbs, with suspicion when we first showed up in their neighborhoods. But then we saw firsthand how over the course of a week, these people, many of whom have nothing but a roof over their heads, warmed up to us, cooked for us, shared a cup of coffee, took care of Project Scion Gardens long after we left. It was heartwarming, and it was honestly tear-producing. There was the poor resident who played checkers with his daughter on the game table they built with us in the garden. That same poor resident provided us with a dozen children's books for the Project Scion lending library that we built on site. And some happy surprises, too. One neighbor painted their porch. Other neighbors started picking up trash on the streets. Still others were planting their own gardens. But the one thing that struck us the most was when a group of kids, ages 9 to 15, who worked with us every day at the Gateway. Every day they were there working with us. They asked us if we were going to be doing another project soon because they wanted to work on that one as well. It was summer, they were bored, they said, and they just wanted something productive to do. They wanted to work. And they were amazed that we do this for a living. They ask us, you guys get paid to do this kind of stuff? They realize that they too can earn money and break their cycle of poverty. Next time you read in the paper or hear in the news of another shooting, another kid being gunned down or stabbed to death on the street, remember that we and you can help stop this by applying some resources and a lot of love to these neighborhoods. Maybe a few less commuter tax breaks for businessmen who will expand their business or renovate their apartment building, whether they get a tax break or not. Maybe a little more to help the core of our city, people who do want to work and contribute to society, because they will if you give them a chance. Thank you.
Legislators, you have in your folders the approved minutes from the last cycle. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now move to public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Madam Clerk.
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds and exit through the back of the chambers. Thank you for your cooperation. Our first 3 speakers will be Kathy Martin, Nathan Van Loom, and Sister Grace Miller.
Thank you. I'm president of Monroe County Farm Bureau. I thank those of you who came to our little dinner that we sponsored downstairs. I always, just so you know, I tend to be a little bit sarcastic, and my idea of having a dinner someday just to impress on you what it would be like in Monroe County without agriculture is to set it up really nice candles, crystal, tablecloths, and then have no food. But I was assured that that wouldn't be popular with you, and we may not be invited back. So we do what we do, and thank you very much for coming. I also want to thank you for the time that you spend working for the good of the county. I know you're not always thanked, but we do appreciate it. We are having a Celebrate Ag Dinner this year, April 12th. I'd like to invite you all to that. It's going to be a social evening of food, local food and drink. And it's our opportunity to share a little bit about our farms and the local food movement in Monroe County. I'm also asking that you help us celebrate agriculture in Monroe County by attending this year's dinner if possible, but I also need to ask your support in another area. A few years ago, our organization, Monroe County Farm Bureau, encouraged the Monroe County Legislature to limit its funding of the Monroe County Cooperative Extension, in part because of Cooperative Extension's change of focus from agricultural programs to programs which would be of more interest to the general public. Since that time, Monroe County Cooperative Extension has diligently worked to earn the funds that they require to operate and have made a consistent effort to build their agricultural program. This is not a duplicate of the Agriculture and Life Science Institute at Monroe Community College. I'm asking, this is a hands-on program, a workshop educating farmers and other agribusinesses about pesticide use, OSHA requirements, New York Department of Labor rules, plant diseases, etc. Monroe County Cooperative Extension has hired a full-time agricultural agent, and he has visited over 80 local farms to find out what we do on our farms and what we feel are our most important needs. To that end, he has given workshops in farm succession planning, how to apply for grants, marketing workshops, crop insurance, a big part of the Farm Bureau that was Farm Bill that was just passed by Congress. He has also been instrumental in good agricultural practices training, and this is an on-farm program which ensures that the food you buy at the grocery store has met and exceeded standards of safety. I do ask that you consider refunding Cooperative Extension to help agriculture in Monroe County. Thank you.
I didn't know the prayer tonight was going to be on leadership, because that's what I prepared. There's a book out now which would be the best book for all of you to read, but some of you will shy away from it because you would have to look deep inside yourself, and you might find this book too challenging for you. And the title of it is Pope Francis, Why He Leads the Way He Leads, written by a businessman, Chris Lowney, who was managing director of J.P. Morgan and Company in 3 continents. Excerpts. Too often those in leadership positions seem preoccupied only with their own status or income. Bluntly put, something is broken. The Pope seems driven by a passion to serve, not by a craving for status, money, or power. Our culture is becoming increasingly self-absorbed and fascinated with superficial pursuits. Pope Francis is striving to focus us beyond ourselves in the struggles of our neediest brothers and sisters around the world. And you all saw the editorial in the February paper, Rochesterians Left in the Cold. It says, paraphrasing a well-known expression, Rochester should ultimately be judged by how well it treats its most vulnerable citizens. Measuring against such a standard, this community has work to do. It's not funny. It's serious. Though it normally lies beneath society's radar, the plight of the homeless took center stage for a short time last month when sub-zero weather conditions sent an estimated 36 homeless individuals into the recesses of the Monroe County Civic Center garage downtown for cover and for warmth, something we all have, but they did not have. This brought destitution within arm's length reach of those in the seat of power, many of whom park in that garage daily. In the book, another statement is made.
Please summarize.
I will finish.
Thank you.
Great leadership is profoundly spiritual, and you don't need to be a Christian or a religious to embrace this principle. You just have to be a compassionate, caring person who embraces all of humankind, especially the most forgotten, the most neglected, the most destitute, the poorest of our society, which is something we do not see here. Climbing or striving to climb the organizational ladder is not true leadership.
Please summarize.
You will get the message. Leadership is about caring and giving and being compassionate to the most destitute of our society. It's not about climbing a ladder and trying to make ourselves richer, wealthier, and more famous. It is taking care of the poor in our society, which is not happening. There should be no reason why there is no shelter in the city, in this county, for the poorest of the poor who are in the garage and who will soon be put out. And you should care about that. And the expression I see from some people here, you don't seem to care about it at all.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Van Loon. Thank you for having the opportunity to have this open forum. I'm here again to talk about the RFP, and I've passed it out as a handout because I think it's important that everybody have a frame of reference as to what we're talking about. And what we're talking about is the future of justice in Monroe County and how the indigent are going to be defended, whether it's through the current system, which is a conflict defender and an assigned counsel program, or the request for proposals that we have right now issued by the county, which is seeking two firms basically to privatize the conflict defender's office and the assigned counsel program. And what I'm trying to convey to this legislature is this is a big decision about how the future of this county is going to be organized, because when we take oaths, as one of you did tonight, to uphold and defend the Constitution, it's not just one side of the Constitution. I think having a good defense for the indigent, for the people who are most vulnerable in society is what makes our society great, and what separates us from other countries where everybody's presumed guilty. And quite frankly, you can have a balance between the cost of a program and making sure that it serves people the right way. And the way that the RFP has been structured, you have a big firm basically handling majority criminal and family court, minority family court stuff, and then majority family, minority criminal court matters. And the problem is that if you adopt this sort of system, what's going to happen is you're not going to have enough money to do the job well. You've already budgeted $800,000 less in your budget. So anybody who signs up and says, we're going to try and do it and do this program, has got to take a lot of things into account. And I think you need to think about that before ultimately you vote yes or no, because a lot of promises can be made. And I know I'm going to just take a little extra time. I'm sorry about that. But you have some quality judges that are in your towns. David Morandi, Mike Sciano, Charles Sciano, Thomas DeSalvo. I know them, and I know that they all do the assigned counsel program as well, and they're some of the best criminal defense attorneys and family court attorneys that we've got. You should talk to these men and some of the other judges and see what their opinions are before you take such a drastic step. Maybe they agree with the RFP, maybe they don't, but we need to have that debate so that the people of the community are best served. So it's an important thing. I know you're not voting on it tonight, but it's an issue that I think is important to be talking about. So thank you very much.
Our last two speakers are Rita Lewis and Tom Gregory.
Tell me, how do you celebrate Black History Month when you are not concerned about the poorest of the poor? The great leaders of the civil rights movement, most notably, or one of the more recent ones, Martin Luther King, was on the side of the poor. In fact, he died struggling for the rights of sanitation workers who were denied their humanity. So how do you celebrate Black History Month when you are not concerned about the homeless in the garage? When you are not concerned about giving dignified burials to the poor? We have a family right now who is struggling to come up with $1,800 to bury their loved one, bury him. They don't want him cremated. Is the House of Mercy going to have to pay that $1,800 out of our meager budget? Is that your answer to burying the poor? Let the House of Mercy bury them? I mean, where is the answer? You're not giving it. $1,250 is not going to bury anybody. It's going to cremate them. And we have been after you for years now about this issue. And nothing has changed. In fact, it got worse. We used to be able to get some additional help other than $1,250. Now that door has been closed on us. So this is how you celebrate Black History Month? Thank you.
I'm just going to echo the comments made by the assigned counsel, individual representing on that. Having been one who's actually been involved in the criminal system, the civil system, and having represented myself in court, I'm certainly well aware of the amount of work that goes into it. I remember when we had the arguments or the debate about using merit selection compared to the county legislature making the decision as to who is going to be our public defender. I did a lot of research, and a lot of that research brought me into the systems that previously existed prior to having a public defender system. And my point would simply be this. We've created this system having a public defender, having assigned counsel, and having the conflict defender, probably a lot because by trial and error. It's a system that works. I think that to replace the system that we have right now might not be a good idea. That's my personal opinion, but I certainly would agree that you should probably it would be wise to talk with the jurists and ask them what they think. I know one thing, that our civil law and our criminal law in particular builds a hedge. The things that happen to people like myself in the courts who shouldn't be there to begin with, but end up there. Well, not that I'm innocent, I'm not saying that, but you know, bottom line, it's the things that happen in the courts that build a hedge around the rest of society. And I think particular attention need be always, and support need be given to the system so it be functional and credible, not to protect my rights or anyone else's rights as much as those rights of the people who don't violate the law or who are civilly sound. Important points to consider. Thank you very much.
This concludes the public forum.
At this time, we will recess the February 11th, 2014 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature and convene the Pure Waters Administration Board for the Gates, Chile, Ogden Sewer District, the Irondequoit Bay South Central Pure Waters District, the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District, and the Rochester Pure Waters District. The clerk will please note the attendance and read the first item on the agenda.
PWAB number 1, referral 14-0023, authorizing.
It's moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
PWAB number 2, referral 14-0025.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. This is also a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
PWAB number 3, referral 14-0027.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is also a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
PWAB number 4, referral 14-0029.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
PWAB 5, referral 14-0031.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
PWAB number 6, referral 14-0033.
It's moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
PWAB number 7, referral 14-0035.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is the motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
PWAB number 8, referral 14-0037.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
PWAB number 9, referral 14-0039.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
PWAB number 10, referral 14-0041.
Moved by Legislator Michikadis, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. This is a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
PWAB number 11, referral 14-0043.
It is moved by Legislator Michikadis, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. This is also a motion to adopt. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. We will now recess the Gates-Chili-Ogden Sewer District, the Irondequoit Bay South Pure Waters District, the Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District, and the Rochester Pure Waters District, and adjourn the Pure Waters Administration Board. The February 11th, 2014 meeting of the Legislature is now convened. We will now proceed with considerations of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 14-0007.
It is moved by Legislator Michikadis, second by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Legislator Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to stand to thank my colleague, Legislator Baroth, for his service on the Monroe County Soil and Water Conservation Board, and thank him for accepting a reappointment to that board, as well as, even though his nomination is not before us this evening, but I also wanted to acknowledge Legislator Yolovich, who I know has served on this board for many years diligently as well, and thank them both.
Thank you. And I would also like to add to that also, too, that both of them were part of this process on this one, and I appreciate both your support and help. They do a very good job on this board. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 2, referral 14-0010.
It is moved by Legislator Holland. It is seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 3, referral 14-0011.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 4, referral 14-0012.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
Item number 5, referral 14-0013.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Yes, Legislator Morelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to stand to say that I'm employed by Wilmerite Management, the management company for Marketplace Mall.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item.
Item number 6, referral 14-0014.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Yolovich. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. Next item, please.
That we move items 7 through 47, which is the remainder of the agenda with the exception of item 48.
Okay, as soon as the clerk gets, that is items 7 through
47.
Through 47.
Which is the remainder with the exception of item number 48.
Okay, do I have a second for that? Second by Legislator Andrews. All set, Jamie? Yep. Okay. Is there any discussion on the moving of it? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? The item carries. All set. Next item.
Item number 48, referral 14-0048.
Moved by Legislator Rocco. It is seconded by Legislator Tucciarello. Is there any discussion at this time? Legislator Baroff.
President, I rise to make an amendment which I believe the entire legislature received earlier today. Would that be correct? Yes?
Do you have a second on that? Seconded by Legislator Haley.
Thank you.
Can you distribute it now, please?
I'll wait a second.
And while we're waiting, I would like to say a welcome to the county legislature to Senator Jim Alisi. Welcome. Thank you. Legislator Baroff, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This amendment is a very simple amendment. Essentially, it just inserts the phrase "and" the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. 3 years ago, when I first came to the county legislature, I actually offered this as my very first action in the county legislature, and I meant it as essentially a way of, I thought at the time, expanding the circulation potential for public notices and laws and things along those lines. And in the years since, I've either seconded or offered this amendment again. And I would urge you to consider this not as anything that actually imposes or provides a constraint or, dare I say, a mandate upon the administration, because simply put, and if anyone in the administration would like to correct me if I'm wrong, when we speak about official notifications for local laws, notices, and such, it does not have to go to all publications of record. It merely has to go to one, or in some cases, two. In other words, if you add a third option, it is not mandatory that that third option is utilized. And I would ask through the President to the administration if my understanding is correct.
Through the President, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And so I would urge this body to consider the fact that what we're I'm offering and hoping that you would see the value of is to provide an additional option or flexibility for the administration if it should feel that there would be a value in utilizing a larger circulation of newspaper for some issue that we are not aware of yet. Because if that does occur, if there's a need for that and they wish to use that, they would have to come back to this body again to get permission to utilize that as a newspaper of record. They may never choose to do so, and a future administration may never choose to do so. But it is a possibility. And I would, again, through the President, ask the administration, or from some of the administration, if they would find this amendment to be burdensome or debilitating to their ability to do their work in any way.
Mr. President, I would hazard an answer to that question. It would represent a financial burden, as the cost associated with the Democrat and Chronicle is significantly higher than what was quoted by the Daily Record and Rochester Business Journal.
Thank you. But through the President to the administration, just to confirm, that cost would only be if the administration chose to utilize that paper of record, if it made that choice on its own. There's no obligation associated there if they're a publication of record. Is that correct, through the President?
Mr. President, I have to apologize, but I'm a little hesitant to speculate on some future occurrence that may or may not happen.
Thank you. Through the President and to administration, would I be correct to assume that if the administration so chose, it could use the Daily Record upon all occasions, thus saving potential costs if they chose to do so?
Mr. President, that was already answered, yes.
Yes. So thank you. So I recognize the fact, and I'm a little confounded by the resistance to answering the question of whether or not this provides a burden, since it's an opportunity to use only if one wishes to use it. It's not a mandate to use it. It's an opportunity, a flexibility, a piece of power you would not otherwise have. This is not a dramatic thing. This is just simply giving the administration the authority to utilize an additional publication if it chooses, and not to if it chooses not to. I would urge my colleagues to consider supporting this, and if they don't, I would ask someone from the leadership, if they're willing to speak to this, to identify why they would not be willing to provide this additional piece of flexibility. It causes no harm. It costs no dollars, unless the administration chooses to spend it, and there's an obligation for it to do so. It simply gives them the opportunity to utilize an additional media outlet if it sees the need, and if it doesn't, it won't. This isn't controversial. Anyhow, it is an amendment offered in good faith. It is meant to be a productive and useful a bit of our time. I would urge you to consider supporting it, and if not, I would appreciate from somebody to indicate why this is somehow unacceptable. And thank you so much for the time on the floor. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Legislator Kaley?
Mr. President, I just wanted to rise in support of Legislator Baroth's amendment and add to it. He was pretty complete with his statement, so I won't go through everything that I was going to say, but I would like to say that according to our information, the city of Rochester sets a tone of balance because it has more than 2 of the designated papers that it needs for its use. And in that practice, it allows for a wider array of public notice if they deem it so, as well as a seamless process. Not that the Daily Record is going to go out of business next week, but if something happened, and obviously I'm not wishing that, we would be back here naming another paper as a paper of designation. So that's just one other idea to think about in this case. It is not useless, nor is it harmless, nor is it necessarily a waste of time to allow us to have more options if we see fit to use, and I refer to that as the administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, I'll move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Tucciarello? Ms. Andrews? Mr. Ansello? Mr. Baroth? Ms. Boyce? Dr. Carbone? Mr. Colby? Mr. Daniele? Mr. Delahanty? Mrs. Draw? Mr. Gamble is excused. Mr. Gamina is excused. Mr. Haney is excused. Mr. Howland? Ms. Cayley? Mr. John Lightfoot? Mr. Willie Lightfoot? Mr. Marionetti? Mr. Michike? Mr. Morelli? Dr. Quattro? Ms. Rivera? Mr. Rocco? Mrs. Stick? Ms. Taylor? Mrs. Valerio is excused. Mr. Wilcox? Mr. Yolovich? President Adair?
No.
817, amendment fails.
Back to the main motion. Is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, I'll move to a roll call vote on the main motion.
Mr. Tucciarello? Ms. Andrews? Mr. Ansello? Mr. Baroth? Ms. Boyce? Dr. Carbone? Mr. Colby? Mr. Daniele? Mr. Delahanty? Mrs. Draw? Mr. Gamble is excused. Mr. Gamina is excused. Mr. Haney is excused. Mr. Howland? Ms. Cayley? Mr. John Lightfoot? Mr. Willie Lightfoot? Mr. Marionetti? Mr. Michike? Mr. Morelli? Dr. Quattro? Ms. Rivera? Mr. Rocco? Mrs. Stick? Ms. Taylor? Mrs. Valerio is excused. Mr. Wilcox? Mr. Yolovich? President Adair?
Yes.
24-1, referral passes.
Thank you. There being no unfinished business to come before this legislative body tonight, Mr. Tucciarello.
Mr. President, we stand adjourned until 6 p.m. Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. Thank you all.